I died. We're going to talk about it. I've never told the truth about what happened. At this point in my life, I've pretty much lost everything. Literally. My kids, the love of my life. Not God. I've made up a lot of stories about things that had been happening but never was honest because I was scared. I know what history's done to people that had gone through what I went through, and in a lot of cases they were killed or tortured. And I didn't want that to happen to me, but at the same time I want to stand up for God. I want to bear testimony. I would give my life for God all day. Not in the sense of a terrorist or for Jesus Christ. He died for my sins, and I'm a true believer with all my heart. I've been doing lots of praying, and I believe whether anything good or made right from this video happens or not, truth needs to be made. In 2016, 2017, I ran into somebody I hadn't seen since I was a teenager. I never was a druggie, or I was an alcoholic for quite a while, and every time I ever got in trouble, every time I was DUI or drunk. Until I had children, I did a full 360 and turned my life around for my kids. And I ran into somebody I hadn't seen in a while, and I thought him and his girlfriend at the time, asked for a ride, hadn't seen him, shook hands, hey, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. They got in the car, I gave him a ride, probably shouldn't have. They had needle marks on their arms, and I don't hang around those kind of people, but because of knowing them from a long time ago, alright, come on. And they were in the car, and I asked them, I said, hey, do you have something, after I dropped them out, before they got out, I said, do you have something I could have? I thought it was pot, or I didn't really care what it was, but weed, that's all we ever did was smoke pot. And he gave me a piece of weed, and at the time my wife was cheating on me and going to the bar and leaving me with the kids every night. Did that for about 6 months or so, until we separated for a year, and then lived in two separate places while I paid the rent at both places, and then came back together, and I ended up filing for divorce. She would hit my kids and hurt them, and she would beat me up, and she's a small little thing, and to say that beat up somebody I'm almost 7 foot tall, I'm a big guy, hundreds of times this has happened to me, at least. And it was always my older son she would hurt, not my younger. Anyways, I took this, I got some tin foil from the store, and I made a little pipe, and I went to a car wash early in the morning on North Lake and Military in Palm Beach Gardens, and it was 2 in the morning, and I parked at the car wash and thought, well, if the car is covered in soap, nobody's going to see me. And it was small. It was just enough for probably 2 or 3 puffs. And I took the first hit, and I was like, oh, this is crap. I don't feel anything. But I haven't done anything. Nothing. And at the time, I had already been sober for like 8 years. And then I took another puff, and next thing I know, I'm waking up in an ambulance. And my shirt's cut open. I got a big square on my chest here, and then over here, it's the electric pads I died. I didn't, heart stopped, flatline, completely dead, 13 seconds. Back window was busted out. The police had pulled me out of the car and saved my life. And at the time, I didn't realize or remember anything that had happened until, I don't know, 3 or 4 months later. I started my daily life, just wherever I was at or whatever I was doing, I started noticing, I would call them deja vus, where I'd be walking in the grocery store and I would be able to say, I'd look down at the end of the aisle and I'd say, there's a lady in purple and she's getting ready to walk around the corner. That's what happened. I would see this 10 seconds in advance, and I have no control over it. It just happens when it happens, and I can't force it. And that would happen sporadically from time to time, and I didn't end up figuring out until later that when I was with my wife before we moved to Florida, we had a restaurant up north, and I broke my back. Try to make this short. Got put on prescription pain pills, steroid injections, the MRIs, the whole 9 yards, and I wanted to get off all that because I don't like drugs. I hate the feeling of being high, which kind of doesn't make sense when I asked but it's a rough patch, and like my mom and dad, they never were into drinking or doing drugs or any of that sort of stuff, and my whole life. But one time at a Christmas dinner, my mom said, yeah, I'll take a glass of champagne. My dad and I turned and looked like, she had a couple sips, and then she put it down, she's done. And that was her time to drink. And that was it. Prior to getting this little piece of what I thought was pot from my buddy, I hadn't done anything since I was maybe 17, and this happened, I don't know, when I want to say around 33 years old, something like that, 32, something like that. I'm 39 currently, and it was not, it was pot, but it wasn't only pot. There's something else on it. It was laced with something, clearly, and paramedics thought it was possibly fentanyl. And it only took 2 puffs, and that was it. And somebody just happened, middle of the night. Nobody goes, Carl. Somebody just happened. There's 3 lanes with automatic wash. Someone just happened to pull up behind me. What are the chances of that? I don't think so. And why wouldn't you go to the other one that's open? But they came to mine. Well, that person that pulled up behind me saved my life. As time would go on, when I got off the painkillers, I started looking for an alternative, and I found a product called Kratom, which is fairly new in the United States. It's a leaf that comes from Asia that doesn't get you high, but it slightly has some of the same effects as opiates without being an opiate. There's no withdrawals if you quit taking it, and now everything that's in the United States is you can't get Kratom now at all. I promise you, every product advertises Kratom. It may have Kratom in it, but there's a lot of other, and I wouldn't dare take it. I don't take anything. I quit tobacco 2 weeks ago. I don't drink. I don't do any drugs other than that one time, other than a prescription or from the doctor for dental work or something. I don't do anything. I don't like it. I don't like being high. I don't like any of that stuff. But I noticed that when I quit taking Kratom, one specific product I had started on was called OPMS. And I was taking that for a few years, and when I would quit taking it, those, say, deja vus, they're not deja vu, the visions, they completely went away. But then 4, 5, 6 months later, I remember being at the beach, and at the time I was with my girlfriend. I nicknamed her Dolly. If whoever's watching this, they'll know who she is. And I love her more than anything in the whole world. I love my children, but it's a different kind of love. I would give my life for 3 people today, and that's, besides myself, is my children and Dolly. They're everything to me. And when I was at the beach, I had another blip. And I immediately remembered when I had died, and I went to a place of darkness for about 2.5 months. And I know that doesn't make sense because I died flatline for 13 seconds, but not 13 seconds. Where I was there for about, 4 months or so. And I remember being in a place of darkness to start with, and it was me. I was all alone, and it was pure torture. And I didn't know at the time until after I started crying out for God. I need help in that place of darkness, but I'd already been there for months, 2.5 months, and I'm screaming in extreme pain and torture. And to describe it, besides can't be able to move and you're in a place of darkness, you're all alone, there's nobody there. If your head was underneath of a semi-truck tire, my head kept slowly getting crushed and feeling the pain, and that went on over and over and replaying over and over and over. I'd be put back together and then it would happen again, put back together and happen again, and I have to feel the pain real slowly, and that happened over and over and over and over and over. This is pure torture until I couldn't take it. In the few seconds when I was put back together, God help me, God help me. And all of a sudden, boom, I woke up from there, and I was in what I would describe as heaven. And there was two beings in front of me. None of us had our bodies. They were like apparitions, and we were talking to each other through light and sound, but it was all telepathic. God was over here in the background. God's electric. He looked like the size of 2 basketballs. Pure bright white light, like an electric glowing white sun, but small. And this fog emitted from him, and the fog is what made all of eternity in heaven. No beginning, no end. I had so many questions, but the minute I kind of woke up into that, the first thing I was told myself, I was just like gasping, but there's no air, is it? But that's just the feeling, and I told myself, how could I forgot? How could I forget? It was literally like, this whole life we're living now is just a big dream, almost. It's not, but that's where I was from, and I knew it, and there was a completely different language spoken there, and I already spoke the language, and I already knew I spoke the, and I remembered all of it when I was there. But here we don't remember anything. That's where we're from. We're all children of God until we come here, and the only thing I can assume at this point is before you can go to heaven, your soul, even if you've sinned, still consequences. You have to be purified before you can go before God. And I had so many questions. One of them I asked is if there's chicken or the egg was the big question. I got to ask God, and God, he didn't have a face or anything, and it's just this long story to go with it. But there was I remember there was 27 universes and 27 different dimensions of universes, and there was so much going on all at the same time, and everything was omnipresent. If I had a question to something, I would start to ask, and the question would be there before I could even ask the question. I get like 1 or 2 words into it, boom, I had the answer. He said, I said, if there's no beginning and no end, who created you? He said, where does the circle start? And at the time, in the moment, it made perfect sense. And here, thinking about that, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It does, but it doesn't. And then they told me, I didn't even think about what had happened or how I got there. I just didn't think of it, didn't care. And then towards the end, before I came back, they said I can stay and move forward, which I didn't know what that meant. I still don't. Well, I don't, maybe. I think there's another heaven after the heaven I was in, like a third or the final. Jesus wasn't there, and that concerned me. God was there as 2 angels, and there was just an overwhelming euphoric feeling of love. And that's what heals you from all the pain we go through here when you end up getting to that. And the being tortured and being purified in the dark place. Just, you could go through the worst pain in the world here on earth. But when you get to heaven, you're just inside and out, through and through, is so overwhelmed with love. It heals any issue you could have. And you become enough of that. You become one with God. The angels said that I could stay and move forward, or I could go back. And at the moment, one of the greatest things that I remembered about being here on earth, and this is going to sound so stupid. One of the first things I remember after I was a young kid and I did something great with my dad was one of the greatest things I remember is being at the grocery store and trying soda for the first time. And it was like cream soda, which I wasn't allowed to have, and I had it, and just the bubbles and when you're there in heaven, you don't have your body, and you can't experience things like you can here on earth. And I love with all my heart pizza, really good pizza and the cream soda or root beer. And I remember telling the angels, I said, I love it, it's great here, but there's no pizza and root beer. And the angels, like apparition, bright lights just floating there, and they don't have face, but we just knew what was going on. And they turned and looked at each other, and I heard them, and then they said to God, they said, their mouths kind of open, like they're shocked. They said, nobody's ever said anything like that to us before. And I argue and fight with God about it every day, even when I'm here. And I love God with all my heart. My entire life not only flashed before my eyes there, but every route that I could go in life, no matter what it is, it was already, he already knows. And when we're here, we don't remember anything. We're expanded everywhere all at the same time, this infinite knowledge. But then when we come back here, we're into this tiny little, can't remember everything. It's impossible. And I argue and fight with God all the time because I don't know how the angels do it. Heaven is so boring. There's nothing to do there besides bask in the Lord's love. And as a Christian on earth, everybody talks about how great it is. They can't wait to go to heaven, and I don't want to go to heaven. I don't want to go to the dark place either. But in heaven, God serves us. And I realized when I came back, when we're on earth, we have the opportunity to serve God and bring people to Jesus. Years later, I wouldn't find out until after I came back and I woke up in the ambulance, but I wouldn't find out until it was just a few weeks ago. And Jesus is actually in that next, when you go forward, he's in the heaven. And then when you move forward, I don't know what happens there. When I came back here, every time I would, every time I would connect with that very specific euphoric feeling of love, that overwhelming feeling of love, I would start to remember and see the things that God showed me in heaven here on earth in my daily life. And I never told that real truth to anybody. And I've been scared because I'm not a prophet. I'm not Jesus. I'm not the Antichrist. I am a nobody. This whole thing was a giant mistake. I grew up in church, and I've been a big believer all my life. The only thing I don't like is the name Jesus. If my name is Ben and 2,000 years ago, there's a different language and they call me something different, I wouldn't like that. So I know the English translation is Jesus, but why are we calling him Jesus when it should be Yeshua? That's the only thing I don't like. I'm all for Jesus, I just don't like that we've changed the name. If he was here in person, obviously you would know. But wouldn't you rather be called by your real name other than a different version changed by language? That's the only issue I have. I told people that I met that were into something called remote viewing, and they were, I don't think they worked for the government, but they were contracted through people in the government in very, very high places. And I told them I would go out to certain spots and pray like Jesus, and They used to make fun of me that I thought I was Jesus, and I never told them the truth because I know what happened to Jesus. And if anybody thinks that you're like him or the prophets, they torture you, they kill you. The prophets were skinned, and they were, I don't want to be like that. I want to stand up for God, but at this point in my life, having lost almost everything, I sold everything to try to provide a better life for my kids, and Dolly. Dolly's back hurts from work, and I've dated quite a few women, which I'm not proud of and hadn't always lived right. And when I came back to earth, I had no sin, and have been completely purified. 13 seconds over 4 months. Time doesn't stop, but it's almost next to nothing. That's why God's timing, they say God's timing is perfect timing. I disagree. It's perfect timing for where you're at in the moment, in that season, in conjunction with Him in heaven. If I could, I would buy him a watch. Because 100 years here may only be something like there's a time dilation is completely different. His timing sucks. When I was on that product OPMS specifically, there was more in it than just Kratom, and I've never been able to find it. I've spent a lot of money looking for it. A lot. $80,000-$90,000. I originally went to Thailand to try and find it, and I was in plantations of Kratom and thousands of acres. There's just hundreds of farms. And I found Kratom, but once I had real Kratom, I realized that's not what was an OPMS, because it didn't give me the same feeling. But when I have that specific feeling, it gives me the ability to remember sections of what God had showed me in heaven to play out here on earth. Without any effort. Don't even try. Just happen. And my divorce, before I filed for divorce and everything that was going on, and my wife going to the bar, she's still with the same guy that she met at a bar, that she wasn't faithful with me. Adultery before I filed for divorce. I was on my knees praying, crying, very specifically asking God to send me a woman that I prefer Asian, but it didn't have to be, and I had no idea, but that's what God had sent me. I just didn't expect it to be in the form or what had actually taken place over all these years. There were things that had happened, and I know now what had actually happened. And I think some people out there thought that I was possessed because I wasn't honest. I had a demon. There was a time I had a group, and I go, oh my gosh, if I can see these things, then I need to be in the market or crypto or the lottery. And there was one day I was doing it to show off, because I'm not here to be a blessing to anybody else. I came back just to live life. I miss my family. I was young, I hadn't got to live life yet, and I still haven't. I've been persecuted, literally persecuted. I don't know, maybe because I wasn't honest, and if I am honest now, I don't know if I'm going to get persecuted for being honest. I always made money having a YouTube channel and having my own business, and that particular year I met this group of people. Things hadn't been going well, and my life is 100%. It's really good, but the money I used to go over there and find the Kratom, and then I gave up on it because there's too many bad people. I didn't want to bring that back here with me. Before I left, I started looking at the real estate market, and I found a 21-unit hotel with 5 commercial stores and a tourist area, and I came back home. It was right after COVID, towards the end of COVID, August 2023, and put my house up for sale, and I literally did that because I had a guaranteed way I already hired attorneys in Bangkok. I knew the laws, the legal system. I paid for a 5-year visa for $26,000. All in all, I spent about $500,000 that's just up in smoke, jumping around trying to stay safe because I didn't understand what was happening in my 35th phone. Somebody keeps getting in my phone. I know who's getting in my phone. I don't know who, but I know what's going on now. And that's part why I'm making this video. I never been able to find what was in that OPMS, and the governor of Texas came out and did on TV, and he said they did a cease and desist because they found out that there was prescription and chemical research drugs in that OPMS, but they never said what all was in it. I found one of the things that was in it, but all of them I couldn't find. Whatever was in that OPMS gave me the unique ability, specifically when I got that it's not, there's lots of things that give you a euphoric feeling. It was this specifically. And when I had that, I could remember pieces that God showed me in heaven. And I did get into crypto, and I had a crypto group, and I had hundreds of people and followers, and I blamed it on other things that were happening other than I don't need to be on anything. Well, I do. And for five and a half years now, since the middle of 2020, I haven't been able to see anything. It's like having a superpower and then it's gone. Imagine being Superman and being able to fly and Man of Steel, and then it just gone. As humans, we always want the supernatural. We want these things, and I can promise you, having something like that is not a blessing. It was in the beginning, but when you know things before they're supposed to happen, it takes the mystery. It takes the whole point of life out of life. That's not the kind of life I want to live. I don't know. I'm now living in my car, almost broke, hoping that God would restore me somehow, and I keep praying, and one of the revelations I got was just be honest. Been having a hard time doing that. I never in a million years would have thought that the woman that God had intended for me and for her and I, would have been who she was with and what she was part of. And I'm not mad at her or anybody else. It's my fault for not being straight up. So when I went to get that hotel over there, things in my phone and different people that were approaching me, or I'm not even going to get into what happened with the police recently, which is now a lawsuit, but every time I try to pursue a lawsuit, my phone will disconnect immediately, or nobody calls me back. I get it. No, I'm not possessed. And when I had that crypto group, I noticed there was three different groups that were, I would put something out that was going to happen, and I was so accurate. There was the time in Dallas, Texas, where there was hundreds of people on an airplane, and I just happened to have opium. I had it, and I saw us getting in the air, and the plane blew up, and I called my friend. That's the director of NASA and DARPA and other places, but within 10 minutes, the airplane was swarmed and surrounded by police and fire, and they grounded the plane immediately. His best friend's over. He's the head air controller in Atlanta, Georgia. He's over all the air controller stations in the entire United States. He called him for me. And they grounded the plane immediately and saved my life. They ended up finding out that the mechanic that's supposed to certify the plane the night before, it didn't actually certify the plane, and there happened to be a bird strike. And as they finally opened the door to get off the plane, I went and told the pilot, I told her, you gotta stop, and I didn't want to sound like a terrorist, but I said, you gotta stop. I tried to explain who I am and what, and they just, of course, looked at me like I'm crazy, and of course, and finally, the plane was grounded. My phone call, they got through to the right people, and I've been friends with some pretty powerful people, and this video is not for the everyday person, but I didn't, God did, essentially. I kind of went hand in hand, but saved over 230 people's lives, including my own. As we were getting off the plane, the right engine of the airplane exploded. Boom! I saw that about 20 minutes in advance, but we had already gotten into the air, and the door was shut. We were getting ready to take off, and I was throwing a fit, and I was yelling in the airplane, and they knew something was wrong, and then bought me just enough time to get on the phone and call my friend, and he called his buddy, the head air traffic controller, and saved everybody's lives. Those are the kind of things I would see, or things that had an evil intention. I didn't know what it was, and those are the things God would say, something like, he's not speaking, but in the moment, I remember, and was able to stop things that were happening. One of them was a nuclear meltdown. Over 1 million people were saved. I remember one time being on the phone with a 3-star general. I don't have any of that without that OPMS. Kratom doesn't do it. And out of everything, it kills me every single day. When I was in Thailand, I wanted to go be missionaries with my girlfriend. I told her originally I wouldn't be with her unless she was a Christian, and then it took years. She ended up getting baptized, and now she's in church, and I want to do it with her more than anything. I don't have anything special or vision. I don't have anything other than just this thing. I believe we should stay 100% in this. Nothing should be added to nor taken away. I think there's a couple things that are off, but in God's eyes, I think He loves it. And I love it. Oh, we didn't do it right when we first met, and this time we would have the opportunity to do it right. Hurts more than anything every single day. Dolly, 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 Dolly. My kids love Dolly. My kids need a good female. I think their mother's much better than she used to be, but we miss our family. I miss my family out of everything, and my $600,000 that I used to try and stay safe and do for Dolly and my kids being gone. I don't know if I can get that back. Right now, that hotel is worth just over $3 million. Out of everything, more than anything, I miss Dolly. We were gonna get married, and then she was telling me, she wouldn't tell me anything, but she would allude to things. It's a brand new car. She wouldn't tell me anything, but I realized what was going on. She said, maybe you should make a video and tell them you had a change of heart. She didn't say who, but I didn't have a change of heart. I just never told the truth. OPMS was bought out by another company in like 2020, 2021. And ever since then, not just them, but all the companies, you can't get it anymore. And believe me, I've tried. I've been to hundreds of stores and went to the source. And what was originally alleged in that product is not what was in that product. I don't know what was in it. So I'm just gonna leave this up. I may delete my other videos. I don't care if I'm part of the church or in that, or I guess what I'm asking for is if the right person sees this, if I can't be restored, please bring my family back, bring Dolly back. I remember those times she'd look at me, the big love in her eyes. She told me, don't get the ring. She wanted to, but there's other forces at play that. I remember one time she said, I am so sorry. I won't go into why. I want to throw her under the bus. And then something really bad happened. And after everything that's happened, I'm shocked I'm alive. But I know God's been on my side. That's what I was going to say when I was putting out predictions. Not my predictions. And they're always 100% from God, but notice those 3 groups were stealing my information. Dolly's like, why don't you start putting out bad information just for them? So I did. And then people would start saying, oh, God's always 100%. This was wrong. I would put something out in my chat group, and then I would go tell the members, my members, this is wrong, other than a couple that I suspected were giving it to somebody else, and I was right. And then it would come out on their YouTube channels, big YouTube channels. Of course, I'm held back. No demon. It was always from God, but I'm not allowed to have my personal opinion too on other stuff, or it doesn't matter anymore. I'm sorry, this is 37 minutes. It's the true truth. Please give me my life back. Give me my sweetheart.